Okay, now we got to go into the disclaimer. Everything I say today is the thought and opinion of one, my own. So if you don't like it, reject it. Hopefully at the end of this, you should be encouraged, okay? You should be challenged. Because I really want you to think differently. There's some huge opportunities in the world today for everyone, but especially Christians. We've gotten away from what works, and we've fallen into the traps of general society with our websites and our tweets and our email blasts and those types of things. And I'm going to show you that the opportunity to go back to being who you really are and what you really believe is going to be a huge advantage. Pop quiz. Weren't these the two most dreaded words you've ever heard when you were a kid? Get a piece of paper out if you have one. You should be able to do it in your head, but I'm going to start off with a pop quiz. A little bit of math to start with. I want you to pick a number between 1 and 9. Everyone got that? I want you to multiply it by 9. Did I lose anybody yet? Pick an easier number. Okay, so you picked out a number between 1 and 9, you multiplied it by 9. I now want you to take that answer and add those two digits together. You still with me? Okay, now let me subtract. Let's subtract 4 from that number. Okay? So now you got a new number, right? I want, if A is the first letter of the alphabet and B is the second and C is the third, what letter of the alphabet does your letter or your number, your letter correspond to your number? You got everyone still with me? 1 to 9, multiplied by 9, subtracted 4. Now we've assigned a letter. I want you to think of an animal that begins with that letter. I want you to think of the dominant color of that animal. I want you to think of the continent you'd expect to find that animal. And I want you to think of the first letter of that continent. I want you to raise your hand if the letter is A. I want you to raise your hand if you're thinking of a gray elephant from Africa. Okay, hold your hands up, hold your hands up. Okay? Okay, now how could I give you 9 or 10 random instructions, a ton of it your choice, and I got, usually my average rate is 90% of the room I can get to say gray elephant from Africa.
Oh my God.
If you didn't get it, there's either psychological issues or you couldn't do the math. Okay, so you couldn't do the math. I won't ask anybody why they didn't get it, but usually it should be, I've done 100% in a room this size. So let's go over it. How can I get this entire room to think the same thing? I understand how people behave and how people think, just like you do. So let's go to the beginning. Math says any number between 1 and 9, when multiplied by 9, if you add up the two products, it equals 9. So I knew I could get you all the 9. Did anyone not get the 9?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I made it look like I was doing a random subtraction. What number should I subtract? I knew when I came in here it was going to be 4. Why? Because I had to get you to number 5. So I could get you to letter E. Under pressure, in a group setting, we resort back to the, I didn't ask for your favorite animal. The first one you learned as a 2-year-old was an elephant. So that just first thing popped up in your mind. Under pressure, elephant. I knew it was going to be gray. And 4 out of the 7 continents begin with A. So right away I knew I should get 60% out of you right out of the gate. And then it's usually either an Asian elephant or an African elephant, right? So that just shows you how, by understanding how people think, I didn't manipulate you. I gave you a ton of choice, and I had you believing that you were in total charge of what your decision was. Marketing's not about deception and inflation of ideas. It's about presenting something in its most favorable light so that everyone can make a good decision. Okay? So that's what it's really all about. It's presenting something, Christianity, it's about presenting it in its most favorable light so someone can make a good decision. That's marketing. Okay, I'm going to start off with the only thing that you really need to remember today is in the first slide and in the first 10 minutes. So if you take this with you, it'll change the way you move your life forward, especially in business. We crave connection. You know what Jesus was all about? Connection. Did God not send Jesus to earth to create connection with man? Right? He had done it every other way before that. Tablets, laws, rules, prophets. But he wanted real connection. I'm not surprised that the first company in America to hit $1 trillion of market cap, Apple, is a company that's based upon connection. I'm not surprised that a cup of coffee is now one of the world's largest food chains called Starbucks. And the genius of Howard Schultz, who started Starbucks, was he was over in Europe, and he went to all these cafes in Italy and France and saw all these people sitting in cafes for hours talking to friends and family over coffee. It wasn't because they loved the coffee, it was coffee was the catalyst to human connection. Dogs are #1 pets in the world. Why? Connection. Cats are not as connective as dogs are. Dogs seek to be with us. Some cats do, but for the most part, they're kind of happy on their own. AT&T, the world's largest communication company. Connection. So we've really got to work on connection. We seek it, we crave it. Even introverts and people that are isolated seek connection. They just don't do it the way that you and I do. You wanted to come here for connection this week, right? We could have done this online. This could have been a big Zoom thing, right? There's no connection in that stuff. But even introverts and people that don't like going out connect, but they connect in different ways, through movies, through books, through video games, and other things. If you really look at someone's life, you'll see their whole day is about connection. We like walking into a store and having them know who we are. We love our pastor recognizing us when we show up to church on Sunday. We love seeing our friends. Connection. So whatever you do going forward, both in your personal life and your business life, think about, how do I create a connection? And then the second point. I've been talking about this for 20 years. I haven't seen it presented much. We make emotional decisions first and then rationalize them. The entire world thinks it's the exact opposite. That you presented with a bunch of facts will make a good decision, and you'll emotionally get involved because the facts line up right. Not true. You guys decided in the first 15 seconds that I was up here whether you liked me or not, with no facts. If you think about the dating process from years ago, didn't you all have lists, and this is what I'd like, and whatever, and then you met someone, you went, wow. And then you backed into the list, right? Also, did you meet people that were on the list, but they weren't right for you? But all the boxes were checked. So you've got to reach people emotionally. That's what the church does really well. They don't give you the 10 reasons why you should become a Christian. They work through your heart, and then your heart convinces your head that you're in the right place doing the right thing. Your biggest challenge is physiological. Why? Here's what's really tough. Your side of the brain that processes speech is the opposite side that processes emotion. That's why when I ask people difficult questions in surveys and how they're feeling about something, they can't articulate it. They feel it, but they don't know the words. They don't have the grasp for it. And that's why it's so frustrating. That's why if you do anything with surveys, don't survey people. Talk to people, but don't survey them. And the reason why? They don't know. If someone says, why didn't you buy our product? You know what the #1 reason is? Price. And the reason why is they don't know why. They know that that's an acceptable reason why. Sometimes the fact is you just didn't like them, or you didn't trust the product, or you like something else. You guys are emotionally branded in this room to a ton of products. When I speak at most places, especially the places of higher learning like Stanford or Harvard or someplace like that, they'll all say, well, I'm not, that doesn't influence me. Marketing doesn't get to me. And I go, well, do you use a name brand deodorant? They go, yeah. I go, why? There's a generic equivalent. Why would you use a name brand and pay more for it? What kind of car do you have? Is it the cheapest, highest gas-efficient model in the worst color on earth? I saw you drive in with a BMW 3 Series in Starlight Blue, right? So look at people. We all don't have the same buying preferences, but we all have brands and products that we attach ourselves to that represent us, that we're emotionally attached to. I used to do this little seminar piece on deodorant specifically. There's what's called in branding badging. Badging is when you have something, it says something about you. So if I walked in here with a Budweiser bottle in my hand, it would say, oh, he's probably a blue-collar guy, he's this, he's that, he's a hard worker, he's an American, all that stuff. That's called badging. So there's easy to understand why we wear Nike and Under Armour and designer purses and things like that. But if you really want to understand the power of branding, look for a product that no one knows that you have except for you. And deodorant's one of those. So most of you probably are using a brand that you started off with 20 years ago. It might have been your mom or your dad's brand. It might not be the same flavor, but it's probably pretty similar. You don't shift based upon price. You don't randomly go around. That's your brand. And yet no one knows that. But you could save money by buying the generic equivalent out of Walmart or Walgreens, but you don't. You stay with your brand. So that just shows you the power of brands. The historical approach to marketing. You know, I've been doing this for 40 years. There's 3 circles. This is what we make. This is how we make it. And then the center is why. And I've had the great fortune in my career to work for large companies where the what we make and how we make was already handled. So all my ads could be right into that heart, that sweet spot. All the Budweiser ads, Bass Pro, all these different things, SeaWorld, I went right for the emotional stuff. I never talked about the beer. I never told you how we made the beer, did I? Everyone knows what beer is. I told you about how you'd feel drinking the beer, how much you'd enjoy it, what your lifestyle would be like, your friendships and all that. So companies today are all set up with what we make cars. How we make them, we use the latest technology, zoom, zoom. Right? You guys all remember that, right? Zoom, zoom. So established brands go right to the heart. That is totally wrong. Marketing's got to move from the center out. What I learned in the last few years is that people care about what we value and what we believe first, before they care about what we make and how we make it. And that blows people away because your instincts are, I have to tell people we do dry cleaning, and I have to tell them that we use the Tide process, and the reason why we think everyone should have clean clothes. Okay? You've got to go to the center and work your way out. I tried to find references in the Bible, the entire book, that talked about God listing 5 reasons why someone should do something, listing the rationale reasons why, how he was going to do it. Jesus never said, I changed their minds. Did Jesus ever preach and say, I changed their minds? I really got to get inside their heads? Did he? No. So what was good enough for him, should it not be good enough for us? Jesus changed people's hearts. One of the most depressing things that I find as a Christian is that I'm powerless in changing someone's heart for Christianity. Doesn't God say that he has to do it? So what are we all running around beating people up for on stuff when you really think about it, right? Do you know Jesus? Right? God has to change their heart. I'm powerless in that. I can nurture and grow and everything else. I can introduce them, but I'm powerless. But in the marketing side, you have the power to change people's hearts and create that emotional connection. Because remember I said they make emotional decisions first, and the connections are powerful? If you go that way, it's really going to make a quick connection for you. Has anyone here ever taken flying lessons? Yeah. One of the first things they teach you is how to keep the engine running. And they said there's 3 things you got to check, right? It's got to have oxygen, it's got to have a fuel source, and it's got to have a spark. Those 3 things are essential to creating fire. Without those 3 things, it does not exist. You put a lid on a candle, what happens? It goes out. Loss of oxygen. It has the spark, it has the fuel source, it's missing oxygen. If I light a match right now in the air, it's going to go out. Why? It's got oxygen, no fuel source. So those are the 3 things. So how do those relate to business? Your insights are your oxygen. We all have insights. We all see stuff every day that's an opportunity. We see a gap in the marketplace. Those are your insights. Those are usually God-given. All my insights, all my success on the corporate side of life is from God-based insights. I didn't come up with one thing on my own. Not one TV ad, not one marketing idea, whatever else. Now the failures, those were 100% mine. They really were. The fun thing about failure is that's where all the learning is, unfortunately. Either we miss God, we don't listen to God, or we try to go out on our own, and that's when we get really, really healthy lessons. I've had a ton of lessons in my career, and my career has really been defined by my failures, not my successes. So the second point, your plan is your fuel. Your plan is your fuel source. So what's the plan? I'm shocked by the number of people today that don't really have a plan. What's the plan? What are we going to try to achieve? What's going to be our measures of success? We don't need a 90-page document. I work for some huge corporations that my Budweiser marketing plan was probably 400 pages long, and it was full of creative and details and financial plans and everything else, but they also were giving me $300 million a year to market with it. So they had every right to have a document that was that thick. A lot of the small family businesses I work for don't even have a 1-year plan. And let alone a 5-year plan, a succession management plan. And some of that's good. You don't want to get overstructured. If you notice up here, I put your insights first. Because you can't plan insights. And the other thing I want to encourage you about is when you see something, go for it. Be careful about committees and advisors. Honest, okay? When someone asks me to join their board, I always say no. And the reason why is I'll be too disruptive. No, seriously. You don't want me in your board. Because I'm going to say that's a bad idea. I'm going to say you're going to lose a ton of money doing that. Or you're not stepping out far enough. Remember, the more people you have involved with something, the more that it's going to move to the middle. Right? Jesus had disciples that basically worked for Jesus. He didn't have a committee. He didn't have a planning board. He didn't have anything. And when I work with pastors, I'm always encouraging to the pastor of, this is your deal, this is your vision. The rest of us are here to help you achieve it. But we're not here to impart my vision on you. Okay? So there's an old saying that if you have a church board, you'll usually get beaten by it. And so just be careful. It's good to get advice and direction, but remember, everything that's successful today, let's look at Starbucks just for a second. Did we not have enough coffee in the world? Didn't we have Hills Brothers and Maxwell House and Folgers, right? If you had said that I'm going to be able to get $5 a cup for coffee when Denny's is getting 99 cents, you would have laughed me out of this room. If I said I was going to build a cafe and all we were going to sell is coffee, no donuts, no pancakes, no waffles, nothing else, you'd laugh at me. And here we are. Did we need another box of Godiva chocolate? Was there not enough chocolate in the world? The brands I appreciate the most are the ones that go into crowded space and find a lane. Bottled water. If you told me 20 years ago I'd even be buying it, I'd say you're crazy. But now if you tell me I'd have to have Fiji water, right? Now think about that, right? And you guys are doing that, aren't you? I am. So your spark is your why. why are you in business? What are you trying to do? And you find that the companies that are the most successful, like Starbucks, like AT&T, like Google, like all these other ones that you may not like too much, like Apple. Apple's why? We want to connect the world. Our devices are all about human connection. That's what we believe in. They don't even talk about the technology in their ads anymore, do they? No, so here's a company, a secular company, worth $1 trillion, who in a lot of ways has a Christian mission. They don't even know it yet. I'm going to show you some examples of that in a few minutes. Let's look at now, let's do that. I've got a bunch of commercials here I want you to see just because they'll be entertaining and fun. But also, I want to show you, I picked out 10 of my favorites. I'm going to be doing what I call cheating this morning. These are all extended length commercials. A lot of them are from the Super Bowl and stuff like that. They're not 15-second spots and they're not 30-second spots. When I was with Anheuser-Busch, I used to cheat it. When I started a new campaign, I did 1-minute spots. On the Super Bowl, I might do 2, because you can really let a story play out and set the whole thing up, right? So all these are pretty long. I felt they all had a really cool message. When I look at commercials, I say, what's the net point of this? None of these talk about the product. So have you seen these ads before? Do you like them? And how do you feel about the company after seeing it? The Nike ad doesn't talk anything about the shoes. Don't even see them. The other thing is, do they connect? Do you feel connected to this company? Do you feel better about this company after seeing these spots than you might have before? You know, Apple's kind of got a target on its back, doesn't it? I got 2 pieces of great work here from Apple today that shows that they're leading the Christian front better than a lot of Christians are. They just don't know it. How can they be more about human connection than we are? Then the final point that I look for is how complicated they were to produce. I've probably done over 1,000 commercials in my career, and when I look at these, the first one I'm going to show you is a Nike ad on a great theme called Snow Day, but I think they have 26 celebrity athletes in it. And I couldn't get 3 celebrity athletes to show up to one thing and combine the schedule. I don't know how Nike pulled it off, but how'd they create the set? How'd they shoot the film? And look at how clever this thing is. Listen to all the details in that, but let's take a look now at Nike's Snow Day.
Rise and shine, and don't forget your booties, 'cause it's cold out there.
It's cold out there every day with the National Weather Service.
Snow Day. 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 Touch, tackle.
But it's that kind of cleverness. But don't you feel better about Nike like that they took these adult athletes and they made them kid-like again? We all loved snow day. Let's take a look at another piece of work. We're going to run a couple from Apple right now. Apple blew me away 2 or 3 years ago with a Christmas spot. It was done by Brad Garrett, who was on Everyone Loves Raymond. He was Robert. So kind of this big creature, so you'll recognize him in the spot. But look at the subtleties. Look for the Apple logo, okay? But the theme is just this beautiful theme, extremely powerful, and it is about connection. It is about acceptance. It is about community. It's about lack of judgment. If you look at this thing, this is a Bible teaching in itself in 90 seconds. So let's take a look at the Apple spot, Frankenstein.
Oh, there's no place like home for the holidays. 'Cause
Cause no matter how far away you roam, when you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays you can't be home, sweet home.
Step out of the crowd, step out of the adults, no judgment, grace, innocence, accepted. There's a ton in this thing. You ought to look at it again sometime and unpack it. Let's take a look at the next Apple one, which is called The Dance. This was their follow-up a year later, totally different. But this is all about connection. Connection in life. And let's take a look at The Dance.
My head is filled with ruins. Most of them I built with you. On my way to something more. You're that one I can't ignore. I know just what you say, and I regret ever complaining about this heart and all it's breaking. It was beauty we were making. I'm gonna miss you. I'm still there. Sometimes I wish we never built this palace, but real love is never a waste of time. But real love is never a waste of time.
Just showed you the power of connection. And they don't even talk about the device, right? You almost don't even, if they didn't put their logo up at the end, you'd miss the earbud thing. That was it. So Let's take a look now. I'm going to tell you about another cheat in filmmaking, music. Music is hugely powerful. If you notice all these spots right now, the music grabbed you and told the story. That was a beautiful song. It says, love is never a waste of time. Who wouldn't buy into that thought, right? Real love is never a waste of time. So on Budweiser, I used to go out and acquire music that I knew you guys liked already, because now I was halfway home. So I want you to take a look at a Super Bowl spot, ran from 2013, I think, and we used Landslide with Stevie Nicks, because that's just a great song. But again, the reason why I used a lot of animals in my career in terms of commercials is because if I were to show you a class photo, or if I took a photo of this room and I sent it to each one of you, you know what you'd do? The first thing you'd do? You'd look for yourself. Where am I? Where do I fit in? Am I in here? And the same is true in commercials. And that's why we've got such a problem today, is because if you're watching TV ads, they're trying to stuff everybody that you could possibly be into every ad. And animals get you around that. So when I did something with a dog or a horse, a Clydesdale, you put yourself in the place of the animal and say, that's me, that's my personality. That's why I always made the animals really personable, and they did fun stuff, and they were clever and everything else, because it becomes us. It's not black, it's not white, it's not female or male, it's not young, it's not old. We all can place ourselves in there. And what was always important to us is to capture a core human emotion that we all share, regardless of the color of our skin or our age or sexual orientation or anything else. So on these spots, we always tried to do that. So let's take a look at the Budweiser Clydesdale spot, Landslide.
I took my love, took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Take my love, take it down. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, a landslide will bring it down.
Being a parent, right? You got to let it go. Let your child go, but when they come back on their own, that's what's really special. Anyone here into horses? Anyone have equine? If you don't have a Clydesdale, you need to get one. Because Catherine and I, we got to work with the guy that ran the Budweiser Clydesdales for me when I was running Budweiser, has a ranch, and we do a lot of stuff with him down in Missouri. But the Clydesdales are the Labrador retrievers of horses. They seek your companionship. They want to be with you. When we go to the ranch, even with new horses, they'll come up, they'll find us. Catherine can walk away with one. They'll do anything with her. They seek your company, unlike thoroughbreds and sometimes quarter horses and that, where if you don't have a bucket of treats, you're not going to get anything done. Clydesdales will seek you out. They are gentle giants. They understand and appreciate their size, too. If you get into a stall with them, they'll gently nudge to find you, but they'll never pin you against the wall. They understand their foot's heavy, and they're really cool animals. If you ever had a chance to see them, do that. And I plan to try to bring some into Omaha sometime, so if you want to see them, let me know. Let's see, next spot. Let's look at the Olympics from this year. I saw two ads that were blown away, and totally opposite. First one is for, I think, Sleep Station, junk sleep. Okay, because weren't the worst ads on TV for mattresses? Hey, yeah, we're going to have price sale. We got this, right? They're all the exact same. And then you got all these online companies, right? These guys went after it totally different. And they did what I always loved to do on Budweiser was they created something and defined it for us, so now we can use it. So when we did What's Up and I Love You, Man, and stuff like that, right? People weren't saying that. But these guys came up with a phrase called junk sleep. And they produced this beautiful spot that pulled them out of the pack. And now I hear young people especially, I'll say to my son, why did you forgot to bring that? Junk sleep. It's going to become this moniker throughout society now that the excuse we've got is we had junk sleep. So let's take a look at junk sleep.
We've got a problem, America. Junk sleep. It's what you get from a bed that isn't right for you. Keep calling Kevin Keith junk sleep. Left your laptop on the bus? Junk sleep. Can't straight think? Slunk cheap. Junk sleep puts bags under the bags under your eyes.
Junk sleep makes you forget the one thing your boss said not to forget.
What? Knock, knock. Who's there? Junk sleep. What you need is real sleep. The kind of sleep you get from a bed that matches you. Not him, not her, not whoever's in that. Whoa. So maybe it's time to ask yourself, did you get out of the wrong side of bed this morning? Or the wrong bed altogether?
Every category has the ability to do that. They created a connection, right? And then they emotionally got us, right? And now we understand what they believe in. They believe that most of us have beds that aren't good for us, and we're suffering because we have junk sleep. And they're going to provide the solution. Do you ever think about, I'm fascinated by pharmaceuticals. A lot of times people say, well, I don't need to advertise, I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that. Take a look at pharmaceuticals. Brilliant. First off, they tell us about a problem we didn't know we had. Does your leg shake at night? I'm like, yes. Yes, it does. Well, you might have shaky leg syndrome. Yes, I might. Ask your doctor. And then they tell you what to ask for by brand name, correct? They don't say get the generic equivalent. No one markets a generic equivalent. So I'm going in going, I'm self-diagnosing. But think about the thought of marketing that. None of us can go out and buy that product at Walgreens, right? So it's not an open choice. We're not going to go in and see all they put something in our heads. Now we get a doctor's appointment, or next time we have one, we go, I got that shaky leg syndrome thing, and what do you want? But it's just kind of brilliant. There aren't too many companies that market something that we can't even buy. That shows you the power of marketing and branding and making that emotional connection. Now let's look at a spot that was really tough for me to watch. I've got 2 adopted kids, so I know about that process and that. This is from the Olympics. This is from Toyota. It's the Jennifer Long story, and just beautifully done. So when you watch this, it's going to hit you square in the heart. All these spots should be hitting your heart, not your head. And the other thing is that think about how did they shoot this? Shooting this thing was a tremendous challenge like these other spots. So just look at it from both an emotional standpoint and from an actual trying to shoot it.
Mrs. Long?
Yes?
We've found a baby girl for your adoption, but there's some things you need to know. She's in Siberia, and she was born with a rare condition. Her legs will need to be amputated. I know this is difficult to hear. Her life, it won't be easy.
It might not be easy, but it'll be amazing. I can't wait to meet her.
We believe there is hope and strength in all of us. Toyota, proud partner of Team USA.
This one was really important that you see it, because it's very, very rare that you'll see this on national television for anybody. I don't know if you remember, but 4 or 5 years ago, Volkswagen had a huge issue. They had intentionally altered their emission computers on their cars, on the diesel ones, so that they would look like they were really good, and they weren't. They got busted, and a lot of people don't know Volkswagen is the largest car company in the world. They own Audi and Porsche and a bunch of other makes, as well as Volkswagen. They suffered with huge fines, sales declined. I know they paid at least $1 billion to the United States, so I can't imagine what they paid around the world. So evil, right? Darkness. And they came out with a TV spot that confessed and then sought redemption. And I thought that as a Christian story, this was extremely powerful, and I've never seen a company go on national television. Listen to the background, because it'll say, here's why we're in trouble. But I want you to notice a lot of these spots go from darkness to light. Jesus is the light. And if you notice, a lot of these spots go from darkness to light. So let's take a look at the light from Volkswagen.
More details incoming involving Volkswagen and the growing scandal. The world's largest car manufacturer under scrutiny as the emission...
Dissatisfied customers filing complaints against the German auto...
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stared by the flash of a neon light. It split the night and touched the sounds of silence.
Wasn't that cool? And remember, that's a German company. Germans aren't known for their charismatic Christian movements and stuff like that. Right? No, they're kind of a quiet group, so it's pretty cool that they came out with that. But from darkness to light. So they're talking about it. Next spot is called The Middle. If you watched last year's Super Bowl, Bruce Springsteen voiced over a spot for Jeep. And it talks about the middle. But it's in a church. I tried to get Bruce Springsteen for Budweiser 20 years ago, and he said, Mike, I love you, man. I love Budweiser, but I'll never do anything corporate. I tried to buy Born in the USA for Budweiser. But he said he changed his mind. He said that Jeep did what I didn't do. Jeep hounded him for 20 years, so he finally did this spot. It's only played once, and the reason why was this report came out about Bruce Springsteen the next day that he was rude to bikers in a park, or he drank in a park, or he was riding his motorcycle and he had alcohol. It was all false, but they pulled it after the Super Bowl and they never played it again. So let's take a look at The Middle and see how Bruce Springsteen talks about church.
There's a chapel in Kansas
standing on the exact center of the lower 48. It never closes. All are more than welcome to come meet here in the middle. It's no secret, the middle has been a hard place to get to lately, between red and blue, between servant and citizen, between our freedom and our fear. Now, fear has never been the best of who we are. And as for freedom, it's not the property of just the fortunate few. It belongs to us all. Whoever you are, wherever you're from. It's what connects us, and we need that connection. We need the middle. We just have to remember the very soil we stand on is common ground. So we can get there. We can make it to the mountaintop, through the desert, and we will cross this divide. Our light has always found its way through the darkness. And there's hope on the road up ahead.
Do you hear that line? Our light has always found the darkness. Bruce Springsteen talking about darkness and light. Did you notice the 3 crosses in the field? Yeah. Right? These are all conscious choices. This isn't like they were shooting a newsreel and they happened to be in the background. Every one of those scenes was scrutinized by 100 people, at least. A director, and a lot of these people aren't Christians and aren't people of faith. And for some reason, that stuff got through and was able to be broadcast in front of 120 million people last February. Let's take a look at the next spot, one of my favorites, Hobby Lobby. Yeah, this one's got a ton of subtlety in it, and if you don't remember from last Christmas, but it's just beautifully done, and I think it'll surprise you. So let's take a look at the Hobby Lobby spot. In the very beginning, when the 2 of them were walking, there's an older couple that walked by. That's them. They're the ones that made the ornaments and put them in each other's mailbox to have them think that the other one did it. And so, again, connection. Bruce Springsteen said, connection. So look at these themes are about connecting. I'm not sure whether it was a Christian principle of deception on that spot, but, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Let's take a look at the last one, which comes out of Europe. This one's a long spot, 2.5 minutes, but it is a beautiful story, beautifully shot, long setup, but it's about love, it's about connection, it's about sacrifice, it's about accepting judgment of others who don't understand what you're trying to get done. Is that pretty good? Yeah. Yeah. And Papa translated really well into English, but what a cool spot. It shows you that photo. And like I said, a lot of these things are movies. The subtleties of what happens in the beginning, you don't pick up till the end and you miss it. So if you ever have a chance to look at some of these again, please do. Big Finish. People do business with people for two reasons. They like you and they trust you. They may say it's price, they may say it's quality, blah, blah, blah. If they don't like you and they don't trust you, they're not going to do business with you. So don't forget that. Start with your why and tell people what you believe. The one area I don't like doing that is in matters of faith. And let me explain why. In my experience, a lot of times when I see Christian symbolism, I feel like it's not exclusionary, because I'm not into the whole woke agenda thing, but I feel that it's kind of, hey, this thing may not be great, but we're Christians, and therefore we hope other Christians will support us. Okay? People should know we're Christians by our behavior and our attitude, and not because I got some bumper sticker with what church I go to, or I have a sign of the cross on my front door. So always put that first. If we're not honorable people of integrity, doing good things and doing the right thing by our Christian principle of decal on our car is not going to change. I've been to some mega churches that ask us not to put the church on our car windows because they said, we've seen you drive around town. Every time you cut somebody off, every time you run a red light. No, seriously, they said, this is a bad idea. So we don't need to put that on windows to look for support. We need to be good people doing good things at a fair price and over-delivering, and they won't care. Do you have Apple iPhones? They're not Christians, but you love their product and it serves you well, and so that's what it's really all about. Make a connection through the heart. Care about people. If you've got a small business, you should have a journal with everyone that comes in. Their name, and what they bought, what they didn't buy, where they live, where their kids are from, anything. So that next time that person comes in, you can go, you bought the blue skirt last time you were here. We got the red one in that matches it. I know that the sweater you have will go with both. Don't you like when you go to when I go to Starbucks, they go, usual, and they go, yep, and they start making it before they've rung it up. We all want to go to the restaurant that has our picture on their wall as one of their, whatever. The food stinks, but they got my picture on the wall, right? I want a locker at Capitol Grill with my name on it. I want a wine locker someplace or a cigar locker someplace. So don't forget that connection. I ask people wherever I am, where you're from. That's my standard thing, because I really do care about it. People, one key point I haven't made is everyone sets us up to think we look for what's different. What's different about what? You're young, you're old, you're black, you're white. The human condition for me is the exact opposite. I think we're all out looking for what we have in common with people constantly. Are you from the same area? Do you go to the same church? Were you raised the same? Where'd you go to college? What's your favorite restaurant? Those are all points of connection for someone. So people I have nothing in common with, like I said, I have 2 adopted kids, right? If you've got an adopted kid, we've got something in common, and there's a link there. So look for what you have in common with people, not for how we're different. If you can't reach someone's heart, you'll struggle to reach their mind. Don't worry about their mind. Get their heart. You'll have a customer for life. You'll have a friend for life. And you're going to go home at night really changing people's lives in whatever little small way you are. I've never worked in the Christian world. That's not where God's had me. I've tried to make the best I could in secular corporations by bringing Christian values and principles to the masses. Sound barrier. 1947, the biggest scientific endeavor in the world was the sound barrier. The United States and England had split up all the German scientists that were very smart. Half of them came to the US, half of them stayed in England, and they started working on rockets and things like that. The general consensus among the smartest people in the world was that there was something called the sound barrier, that if you're flying at 560 miles an hour and approach the speed of sound, you're going to hit an atmospheric wall and be destroyed. You're going to hit this solid wall that's going to wipe you out. That's why they called it the sound barrier. So both countries began an endeavor to see if they could break the sound barrier. Britain's style was to take fighter jet pilots and dive bomb towards the Earth trying to break the sound barrier at 560 miles an hour. The problem is the aerodynamic pressures on the plane, they could never pull out of it because they'd lost wind speed. They had like 5 or 6 that died and total crashes wiped out. So the United States learned from that. We decided to put a rocket on an airplane, take it up. If you read Chuck Yeager's book, The Right Stuff, he talks about in the X-1 rocket attached to the plane, he said it was released. It was totally quiet. He was full of peace. And then he slowly pushed the stick forward, and he started watching his Mach odometer go up, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8. When he hit 0.8, he said it went from smooth flying to shaking violently. And he thought it was going to fall apart. And all he could think about was that the smartest people in the world said that there was a wall that he was going to hit and be destroyed when he broke through 0.8. In spite of his fear, he pushed the stick forward, and the thing smoothed out, and he looked down, he was going 1.1 Mach. What does it have to do with us here today? We are flying right now in violent air. The world is shaking around us. Do not pull back on the stick. Push forward and look for the smooth air. It's really critical, essential now. Everything we believe in is under attack. Faith and Christianity and decency and democracy. Right, left, blue, red. Push forward. Don't get distracted. And I promise you, there's smooth air ahead for those of us that have the guts to push forward in spite of our fears. Thank you so much.
Amen.